početka ovog veka, napredak nauke, naročito genetike, doprineo je poboljšanju dijagnostike, prevencije i tretmana bolesti. Poznavanje informacije o genomu pojedinca omogućava saznanja o rizicima, mogućnostima da se bolest spreči ili, ako do nje dođe, da se preciznije leči sa manje neželjenih efekata. Međutim, ovo znanje predstavlja veoma veliki izazov za društvo, jer genetičke informacije na neki način postaju javno dobro. Ukoliko odlučite da učestvujete u istraživanju koje uključuje genetičko testiranje, šta će se dalje dešavati sa podacima o vašem genomu? Kome zapravo pripada pravo na te informacije? Ko može da im pristupi i pod kojim uslovima?
We are dealing with lots of different emerging technologies, and each of them holds their own issues. I would say that indeed this is good in so many senses because they are alternative, but they are also convergent technologies. And we have a lot of chances that it will be easier for us to have better healthcare systems and cheaper healthcare systems, and that will be fantastic because otherwise we will suffer a lot of problems in the future.
This gives rise to a number of very challenging ethical and legal concerns arising in this area. From an ethical perspective, questions arise around informed consent, disclosure obligations on physicians in that clinical context, questions around family members and what obligations might arise in that respect. And then from a legal perspective, we have even more challenging issues arising around privacy and non-discrimination.
U trenutku kada vi date pristanak na to da se uradi, da se podvrgnete genetičkom testiranju, vaši genetički podaci prestaju da bivaju privatno dobro i postaju javno dobro. To je veoma važno da budemo svesni toga. Čineći to, mi činimo jednu dobru stvar. Omogućuje se nauci da mnoge do sada neizlečive bolesti leči na osnovu podataka koje na taj način stiče.
An important development in the field of genomics currently is the fact that many genetic tests are being sold through the internet. Many of those companies sell genetic tests for health purposes, but we see as well that there is a strong offer of genetic tests that tell something about your family links. To what extent are you connected to people you know, to people in your neighborhood, to people around the world? This development is at many levels challenging. It can show issues of non-paternity. It might show that your father is not your father. It might as well tell other elements. It's like this non-paternity might be linked to maybe a sperm donation.
From a privacy perspective, we're concerned about access to and disclosure of genetic information. Of course, genetic information contains a huge amount of very sensitive private information in relation to an individual's potential predisposition to disease, disability, a whole range of potential behavioural and personality traits. So there's a really compelling reason why individuals would want to safeguard their genetic information from any outside intrusion.
In the recent years, it has been a lot of attention to data sharing, and this is indeed necessary for science and society in order to improve our understanding of data sharing. But it's, at the same time, it's important to be careful about the rights and the interests of the research participants, because we are indeed sharing their individual level genomic data. And it may create some concerns in terms of privacy of these individuals and also the consent issues, that to make sure that we are indeed respecting their wishes.
I think it shows importantly that genetic information is not only personal information. There is always a familial component of genetic information. So any genetic test you do, it's really important to inform people about the fact that it tells something not only about you, but about your whole family.
Those samples, they can still have a lot of privacy issues because they can give information about paternity, about extrapair paternity in the family. And so this is a little bit the same as genealogical research, where people buy genetic kits to find out who is related and who is not. And even after so many years, you can still have a lot of problems about the privacy.
For this reason, although it's very important to really encourage researchers to engage in data sharing, but we should also make sure that we have enough safeguards for the research participants in terms of privacy, and thereby we can really make sure that we are not harming them with these practices, and at the same time we are maintaining trust of the public in research and researchers.
When we talk about these legal issues, the unauthorised access to and use of genetic information, this can arise in a number of third-party contexts. For example, in the employment setting by employers, and also in the insurance setting by insurance companies. So as you can see, in light of these issues and concerns that arise, there's a really strong need to develop appropriate responses here and appropriate regulation of this area. So in the employment context, in the insurance context, individuals who are predisposed or who have a predisposition towards developing a particular condition, whether this is heart disease, different types of cancers, breast cancer, Alzheimer's disease, third parties, commercial entities such as insurance companies usually would like to know this information for commercial reasons, for an economically motivated reason. Likewise, in the employment context, employers usually want to hire those who are deemed to be the most healthy, the most productive, those who are not going to be a drain on the resources of the company. So in light of that motivating factor, there is a real concern that individuals may be discriminated against on the basis of that genetic information that will indicate a potential predisposition to a certain disease, condition, disability, etc.
Poznat je slučaj koji je pre godinu dana otprilike se odigrao u američkoj državi Georgiji, u kojoj dvoje ljudi koji su bili prisiljeni praktično od strane poslodavca da se genetički testiraju, dobili nadoknadu od preko $1 milion zbog toga što su tužili poslodavca koji je to učinio. On, zaključuje sud, nije imao pravo to da uradi i oni su dobili odgovarajuću odštetu.
I think there is much more discussion needed on these new technologies at the level of, well, how should policy address this important development. We see that steps are being done in certain directions. We see some countries changing policies at the level of fertility treatments. But thinking about, for example, the regulation of genetic tests and the quality of the tests, the kind of information that should be given to people taking this kind of test, I think there is still a lot of things that need to be done.
In my country, in Ireland, the area is regulated under the Irish Disability Act, under Part 4 of the Irish Disability Act. Now, Ireland takes primarily a privacy approach in basically safeguarding the privacy of genetic information and requiring that informed consent is given in the event that genetic information is to be disclosed. However, there is an absence and there's a gap in protection in the Irish law, for example, in that it does not provide any non-discrimination protection, so it doesn't protect against the discriminatory use of genetic information in settings such as employment and insurance. So there's a gap in protection there, and we can see that gap in protection in a lot of jurisdictions around the world.
U ovom trenutku naučna zajednica bi trebalo da da podstreh donošenju celovitog zakonskog propisa koji bi se odnosio na sve pomenute aspekte, a koji bi mogao da bliže reguliše ovu oblast u praksi. U stvari da se uobliče određena pitanja koja se tiču podataka vezano za pravo, odnosno vlasništvo nad podacima, vezano za mogućnost da se ti podaci razmenjuju, na koji način se oni pohranjuju, kako se razmenjuju, pod kojim uslovima, zatim pitanja vezana za učesnike istraživanja, posebno pitanje vezano za informisanu saglasnost, različite vrste informisane saglasnosti koje se već danas uvode kao, da kažemo, potreba vezano za specifičnost genetske informacije.
Dobrovoljnost i informisani pristanak su osnov etičnosti ovakvih istraživanja. Međutim, u Kuvajtu su genetička testiranja obavezna za sve stanovnike. Posljedica izbjegavanja ove obaveze je novčana kazna u iznosu od $33.000 ili zatvorska kazna. Na Islandu, ostrvskoj državi sa nešto više od 300.000 stanovnika, drugačiji pristup omogućio je veoma tačno izvođenje zaključaka o genomu stanovništva. U situaciji kada je najveći deo populacije u rodbinskim vezama, približno 3000 potpuno određenih genoma uz stotinak hiljada delimično testiranih, daje dovoljno veliku bazu za pretpostavke o genomu netestiranih građana. I ovakav pristup otvara izvesne etičke dileme. Kako postupiti ako ste u mogućnosti da pritiskom na dugme izlistate sve stanovnice koje imaju rizik da obole od raka dojke? Mnoge nisu učestvovale u testiranju i ne znate da li bi želele to da znaju. Da li ih obavestiti o riziku? Evropska regulativa se stalno unapređuje kako bi se postavili stabilni, ali dovoljno fleksibilni zakonski i etički okviri za istraživanja koje uključuju ljude i njihove lične podatke. Ipak, zakoni nisu dovoljni za potpunu sigurnost učesnika.
I think that the thing with genomics is that you can't really promise 100% privacy. So I think one of the maybe important things is to make sure that participants are aware of these risks and their participation is informed. But at the same time, we have to have these indeed maybe more novel data protection methods in place that indeed reduces the risks of re-identifiability of these data sets and also violating the privacy of these research participants and individuals.
It's very difficult to work with old samples and with genealogical samples because they can provide privacy information of a family, of members who doesn't participate in the analysis, and when there is no informed consent. And how we deal with it, well, it's very difficult in the field without any guidelines, without any registration or of those samples. And what we do is try to give exact good information to participants of genealogical projects. And when we do also ancient data, we don't publish the concrete genetic data. We only give some overall information about identifications and so on, but we don't publish Y chromosomal sequences because this can really give some problems for privacy. We did this especially in a case of Albert I. He was king of Belgium and died in the 30s. And there we had really some problems about privacy issues because when we should publish his DNA, it would still have a lot of privacy issues for his descendants and our present king in Belgium.
Mobilni uređaji, online komunikacija, pametno okruženje zaslužni su za sve veću količinu ličnih podataka na internetu. Među njima su i informacije povezane sa zdravstvenim stanjem pojedinca, što omogućava inovativni pristup biomedicinskim istraživanjima. Digitalni fenotip je naš otisak na svetskoj mreži, koji ostavljamo koristeći mobilne aplikacije, prenosne fitness uređaje, komunikacijom na socijalnim mrežama.
There are at least two groups of people that are really interested in studying this digital phenotype. So one group of people, they are the personalized medicine people. And the idea is that if you combine the genomic data with other data about behavior and also about with this digital data, you get a better understanding of the disease that people have. Another group of people are the public health people. They look at the aggregate. They basically search, they filter the web for this sort of signs from web behaviors by looking at the sort of content people post online, tweets and so on.
Osim što zahteva pažnju zakonodavaca i istraživača, genomika predstavlja izazov i za obrazovne sisteme, koji po pravilu ne reaguju dovoljno brzo.
One of the characteristics of these genomic technologies is that they are the source of new professions and also the reason why some existing professions evolve in the way they are practiced. For example, some years ago, it's because the happening or the occurrence of data in large amount that came to the development of the bioinformatics. And now we have bioinformaticians as professional people. So this is just an example. Another example in the development of genetics has been the new profession of clinical geneticist counselor. So clinical geneticists have existed for long, but genetic counselors as such, who are not necessarily medical doctors, but specialized in this kind of advice to people, accompanying the people who are the subject of genetic testing, is a new profession.
So, of course, as you can see, there can be significant benefits from being able to analyze the traces of people's lives on the web. But on the other hand, there are important ethical questions. So, normally, for instance, for these uses of digital epidemiology, people are not asked. And normally that is okay because people have already agreed to make a lot of this content public.
Jedino što možemo sa etičke tačke gledišta da kažemo, to je da je dobrovoljnost ključ. Dakle, ukoliko se genetički podaci uzmu od vas, a vi niste dobrovoljno pristali na to, primjer Kuvajta, to se ne može nazvati moralno opravdani. Ukoliko vi pristanete na to, uz naravno odgovarajuću saglasnost, uz prateće genetičko savjetovanje i donesete informisanu odluku da želite da se vaši genetički podaci koriste radi dobra stanovništva, radi javnog zdravlja, vi ste onda doneli jednu moralno opravdanu, informisanu odluku.
The evidences show that people are really divided about this topic, so not that everybody is happy with this data sharing and the potential implications of data sharing. But at the same time, in general, I think that when individuals learn that how big are the benefits of data sharing, they are more inclined to engage in that and they are more pro-sharing in a sense. But at the same time, they want to make sure that if they indeed get involved in data sharing, they will be protected and it won't really harm them or their values as well in terms of research.
Most people are not so concerned about that, and indeed, it's pretty much more difficult to let public opinion understand about the real implications of the things that we are doing right now. But in some years, for example, someone who's suffering from a kind of disease will go to a doctor, and most probably that doctor will consult a kind of algorithm that has been built on the basis of all the data that we have been obtaining in these years, and they will make a decision on whether he will be able to be afforded or not on these ways. At that moment, we will all realize of what we have been doing during these years.
There are needs of education of the public, need of the education of health professionals, because when you have such changes in professions, you need to educate the existing people in those professions, not only the newcomers, because these technologies are transforming the way the profession is practiced.
Razmatranje gorućih pitanja u vezi sa genetičkim testiranjima, ali i obrazovanje pravnika, filozofa i istraživača, važni su ciljevi KOST akcije 1303, nazvane Unapređenje zdravlja građana pomoću javno-privatnih inicijativa, javno zdravlje, tržište i etičke perspektive, ili skraćeno CHIP-MI. Ko može da polaže pravo na genetičke informacije i pod kojim uslovima i kako unaprediti struku i zakonodavstvo u zemljama učesnicama akcije, pitanja su sa kojima se suočavaju pravnici, filozofi, istraživači i eksperti iz različitih oblasti nauke. O problemu kome pripada genom i pravo na genetičke informacije bilo je reči u septembru na godišnjem okupljenju eksperata KOST akcije u Luvenu u Belgiji.
So what we are focusing on is a number of ethical, legal and social issues around genetic testing that arise from the increasing number of companies as well as other possibilities of providing genetic testing to a diverse audience, the possibilities of greater amounts of data that are available for research as well as commercial purposes, and possibilities of processing, data sharing, and using it for a variety of purposes. There's a number of outcomes. So one of them is actually the networking itself. So it allows us to create new groups of researchers working on projects together. So these cost actions allow to bring together people from a wider range of countries than might usually work together, and so that has led to a number of additional research proposals arising from it with people who were brought together through the work of the action. Bringing people from a diversity of disciplines together allows cross-fertilization of ideas to see, well, are some of the concerns that maybe one discipline is struggling with, how can a different discipline address these? How do they perceive these? Does that change their understanding of the challenges that they face themselves?
I think that the most important thing is to be aware on what people really want. But this can only be done if we manage to arrive into common people and explain them the things that are at stake and then let them decide. We cannot make decisions on them without them. That's the most important thing. And we have to find a way to make something that is a quite high knowledge, difficult to understand, to make from it anything that is quite well understandable for the common public. You know, dissemination is one of the most important things, and then we will have to let them understand that citizens must be responsible for what's going to happen in the future, because politicians should not make decisions that affect people's most important values.